I made a New Year's resolution at the end of 2021. I made a couple, and one of them was no Brussels sprouts for a year because they became basic and they're like basically like French fries. Then I said I'm going to wear a collared shirt every day, and that's lasted for years later. And then I said I'm buying a race car, and I didn't know what levels to enter. I really wasn't sure. I think at that time I was just like, I'm not buying a Miata. I can't even fit. I had the pleasure of having a 992 Porsche available to me back in 2023, going into 2024. And the first thing I did was I went to competition school at Summit Point in West Virginia. And I did no track days. I did no teaching days. I did nothing of the sort. Now we got taught there, obviously, but I went straight to competition school. And there's a race at the end of the competition school. I won that. Yeah, that's how it all started, and I haven't stopped since. We're about to sit here and talk about all the things that are applicable from football to racing, and there are some things, but not everything, and not for everybody. And I think it's a difficult transition. And I asked Mike Skeen, what should I do with this? And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a real deal driver. I want to be a real boy. As Pinocchio said, he's like, well, drive a TA2 car. And that's really all he had to say. And I did that, and then got rid of the Porsche and found a way to fund my first TA2 season in 2024.
Jared Odrick, huge, jacked, like ripped dude, makes me look like a chicken over here, and he could probably pick me up with one hand. So co-host Jared Odrick, looking forward to it. We're going to have, every week, we're going to have our race week episodes where we sit down and interview different drivers throughout the Trans Am paddock and just talk to each other about what's coming up that race weekend. Maybe if there's some beef, if some guys are getting into each other, maybe we have them on the show and to talk some crap and get into each other a little bit. But so Jared's going to be our co-host on the race weekends, and we'll be looking forward to getting him on there and seeing what we can stir up.
Okay, well, you were on time. Thank you for that.
Oh, man.
But see, it's because it's co-host title.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, look, I'm helped out by being here at the track.
It does help. That does help. But
you came hard at Connor. I was kind of surprised. You guys must have a really good relationship.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to hold it out there.
Yeah.
And Andres Perez, sorry you were late too. LeVar, you were good.
Wow.
But we're at the track, episode, but it's raining heavily, as we can hear.
Yeah, no, it's pouring out there. The last time I was here and it was pouring, I was in the wall.
That's not good.
So hopefully it goes away pretty quick.
Yeah, let's not recreate that. So, okay, we're here at Sebring, first race out of the box, and we've had some dramas between both of us with our teams and cars and stuff, but we're working through it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's kind of what it's been about the past 24 hours is, I mean, I think we're actually going to be a better team because of it. There were some things that we had to review, and I think in those times, somebody like myself who doesn't have much experience turning a wrench, you kind of feel helpless, right? So you're sitting there, you kind of look stupid with all your gear outside your car, just staring at the car. But that's a position we get caught in sometimes, and what's funny about this whole thing is like having tons of athletic and competition experience and having more than you naturally just by being older, but you having so much more experience inside of a car or at a track. So sometimes it feels like you're teaching me, or people like yourselves, or kids like yourself, or young adults.
I am 18 now.
Like yourself.
I'm an adult now.
Are teaching me a lot as I go through this. So I'm pretty grateful for that.
Yeah, but it's also it's tough, right? Coming from the football world, you can pretty much control everything you do on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have the ball in your hands as a D lineman, right? So there's times that you wish you had the ball in your hands. Especially as a defensive player. I've been on plenty of teams where it's you can be playing lights out as a defense, and the offense just isn't coming around. And so, if there is any experience to the issues that we had the past couple of days, it's like you don't talk shit on your offense, even though you're playing lights out, because you just can't do what they do.
Yeah, it's kind of in a similar situation where there's stuff you can't control that you just got to put out of your mind and be like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go out. I'm going to do the best of my ability and, try to manage that. So, I got to ask, and it's kind of cheesy, but does 4th and 1 in the NFL kind of feel like turn 1 race start here at Sebring doing 140?
Yeah, I mean,
difference?
turn 1 feels like play 1, because a lot of guys will have so many nerves, and I'll talk for myself too. I mean, you have a lot of nerves, and the reason you build up all these routines before the game is so that you have a way to dispense them, right? So you have these routines and rituals so that you can do something with your excess energy that you're not putting into something while you're anticipating the first play. And you're so nervous for that first play, and how strong that left guard might be, what that double team's going to be like. What's the first play? Are they going to run a trap block on you on the first play and make you look like an asshole, like right away? And those things all run through your mind constantly. But then as soon as you hit somebody on that first play or they hit you, it all fades away. And yeah, as soon as you get hit, you're like, oh yeah, I'm playing football, right? And so I think it's more similar to turn 1, especially here at Sebring, because it's such a dramatic turn 1. But yeah, it's the build up, and then snap, you're in the zone.
Does it feel, because granted, racing is a team sport, but it's a team sport and it's not. It's both, because when you're not on track, it's a team sport. But when you are on track and you're not coming down pit road in these Trans Am races, you're out there for the full 75 minutes, if nothing happens. Is that kind of different from playing team sport in football to now?
Totally, yeah,
racing?
no, it is. I think if you were to ask, my mom or my brother or anybody else close to me, I think it's been kind of having the ball in my hands that I've been looking for, right, for a long time. I played a lot of basketball when I was young, or baseball. You can be at bat, right, where you have direct influence on the ball within the game, and then as a D lineman, you get a few strip sack opportunities. And I had a few of those throughout my career, but yeah, nothing like having the steering wheel, right, or having control of everyone's efforts, right? Everybody's their own quarterback out there, essentially, where you're calling shots and you're in control of the flow. And so yeah, I think I think I've been looking for that. I actually had this thought when I retired from football, where I was like, because there was a few guys around me that were thinking about being done, like my buddy Jack Crawford, who played with the Cowboys and the Falcons. I played with him at Penn State, and he had got right into MMA training. And I'm like, dude, like, you're going from, beating your body up to, direct blows to the face, without a helmet on. And I'm like, I'm not sure if that's me, right? Like, I don't think I would, I think I would fare okay. And there was a few other guys that did, like Greg Hardy was one of the guys that made this like transition. But I think I always felt, he was a little bit more crude in his approach to football and a lot of other things. Shout out to Greg Hardy. But yeah, like when they started talking about MMA, I knew that's not something I wanted to do. But being in the middle of the ring or the octagon is what I was looking for, right? Being in control of my own effort, while still having teammates and training and a competitive effort. And, yeah, by the grace of God, racing found me.
Was there something coming into the racing world that there's just a different intensity about than playing football?
Sure. I think I like the word intensity. And I tend to talk about the words discipline and focus. A lot of people, I think, will sell themselves or sell the event as adrenaline fueled, which naturally it's there. But I think if you were to have pure adrenaline in anything that you do, but especially in a race car, without discipline or focus, then it's pointless, right? And it just goes anywhere and everywhere, and it's not pointed and focused. And so yeah, I definitely think there's a different type of intensity, and that's what I witnessed and experienced the first time I ever got into my own race car that I first bought, which was, a Porsche Cup car. Right. And the only reason I went to that extent for my first race car is because I knew I would fit. Right. And that's a totally different story. But when I got in that car, I actually had private track time scheduled before my racing license school at Summit Point. And so I was able to get like a couple hours and rent a couple hours at Summit Point. And I got on track, and, you know, I've told this, you know, to a couple people a couple times, where I only had a pre-game ritual for football, right? And that consisted of being super amped on caffeine, timing it just right, where the caffeine high was at its peak and you're about to go hit somebody. I got in the car, I strapped in, and I realized as soon as I strapped in that I didn't know exactly how to get out. And because of that, I started hyperventilating and started the car, and I'm like, this is not good. Like, this is not the type of energy that I need inside the car. And I like stopped the session right away. Literally, you know, popped some magnesium and some vitamin C to clear the caffeine, and took an hour to calm down. And then I got back in the car, and I'm like, man, this is the best thing that's could have ever happened to me, because I realized that you can't run at that type of high octane for that long, or at least I couldn't.
So like going in, I played high school football on Friday nights, and granted, I never was even close to. Yeah, I know. You won't believe me if I tell you what position I played.
I think you played middle linebacker.
Starting linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must be feisty.
I go for the ankles.
Oh, there you go.
But I got run over most of the time, but it's okay. So, you know, it's a different intensity. I mean, you're getting up, you're in the locker room with all your guys, and I mean, you go to war with these guys. You're playing, you know, during the week with them, but you're training with them, you're practicing with your guys, and it's just that camaraderie that, you know, sometimes you can't really get it anywhere else. And do you feel like having that and getting ready for a game, you know, getting all hyped up, you can't really do that in a race car? You got to be more mellow and calm?
Yeah, totally. You know, I let my wife and my mom be those hype people now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel bad. Like I don't miss that so much in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you still get goosebumps when you go back to games and you see guys get into that spirit.
Yeah.
And I love that, but I knew that wasn't something that I wanted or needed in my life moving forward. You know, I played with a lot of anger. I was an angry kid a lot of the times, and sports became an outlet for me, and it was very important for me. And I realized that, you know, especially in college when I had a coach that really, really challenged me, Coach Larry Johnson, who's probably going to go down as one of the best, if not the best, defensive line coach ever in the sport of football, with how well he develops young men into professional defensive linemen. And he witnessed that, saw it, and at times, you know, at practice used it against me to show me how it could be weaponized against me, my own anger. And then he took that and he kind of held it up and put it in my face, and he almost made me smell my own shit.
Yeah.
And made me realize that I could harness it and use it for good. And so yeah, I think stepping into a race car is kind of a graduation of that too, right? From, you know, high school to Penn State to professional ball, where people aren't really taking you to the side and giving you a pep talk as much. They just expect you to perform, right? Not be some, you know, crazy guy with anger issues. Like, we're paying you money, you're a pro, show up, do your job. So I'm super appreciative of Coach Jay. But then I think in the same regard, that's why I have this super high regard just for the sport of racing in general, because I think it's done that again for me.
What's it like being, you know, you were an All-American at Penn State, and, you know, you balled out. What's it like going in the first round? Like, when you're sitting there as the draft's going on and you're going, you get that phone call. What's that like, getting that phone call?
With the 28th pick in the 2010 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jared Odrick.
Yeah!
Yeah, no, it was nutty, man. It was, you know, surreal, and nothing short of that. When you see time and time again, you know, people sitting in the green room, waiting for their name to be called with the, you know, the big zoot suit, and, you know, everybody's parents, you know, having their hair done up, and, you know, waiting for either the small town kid or the kid from the hood to get their name called and have their life change and all this stuff. But yeah, you're literally playing that character in the green room I was at Radio City Music Hall. I was lucky enough to be invited up there, and almost, when you get that invite, it's almost an assumption that you'll go in the first round. Well, I was sitting around and only got picked 28. There was actually a chance that I would have either went like 10th overall, which honestly would have been too high for me if I would have been drafting myself. But yeah, it was like the Cleveland Browns. There was a chance that I was going to go with them, or at least they had let my agent know that. And then, there were a few other teams that were talking. I thought the Patriots were going to pick me. They actually showed free agent interest when I became a free agent.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the Dolphins I did not have on my bingo card. And I was sitting there at pick 27, and my phone rings, and it's a 954 area code, which is Broward County.
Yeah.
And so I literally go, "What's 954?" And my agent sitting next to me, he goes, "You're a Dolphin, baby." And so picked up the phone, and 100% truth, there was hesitation on the other end, because I ended up finding out that they were trying to trade the pick actively, and they were trying to trade it, and they had to put in a selection of, I forget what it was. They had to put in a selection, but they had enough time on the clock to still trade the pick. And so he was like, he didn't say, "Hey, welcome to the Dolphins," right away. It was like, "Hey, Jared, how's New York? What's going on over there? Is your mom next to you?" Kind of doing this whole elongating thing. And I'm like, just tell me I'm drafted.
Yeah.
Tell me you love me,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it was pretty surreal.
What made you go towards racing? I mean, you were at the pinnacle of the NFL. I mean, you made it. You got to do that. Look, Mom, I made it. What makes you, after your football career is over, what makes you drawn towards racing? Did you always enjoy racing?
I got exposed to a little bit when I was younger. My grandfather had a hunting cabin in upstate Pennsylvania, and there was the STPR, the Susquehannock rally car racing that came through there, and so went through all his hunting grounds, and so we would stay at the camp and then go to different turns and different sites to watch the rally cars, and we put money down, we play cards in between stages and stuff like that, and just kind of hang out, and it was kind of like a upstate camp environment, and so I got exposed to that, but I really wasn't like into NASCAR or even road racing, much like following anything. I think I was always, whenever I was in a car, I didn't really have my own car in high school or anything like that. I would just drive my mom's whenever she would let me. And I would drive that fast. I think I did everything at 10/10ths that I did, but I don't think it was ever like, man, one day I'd like to get into a car and go racing. And so it came to me where about 5 years after I was done with football, those 5 years I was kind of roaming around, re-educating myself, like literally reading so many things that I had found new interest in. And I think that's kind of what art was for me and is for a lot of people. It's a mechanism to help people change their minds. And so anybody that's going through a transition of that, like a whole identity shift, I would always, and I still do, push towards like engaging art. And I think engaging something interpretive helps you redefine yourself and the world around you. And so that's what I did for about 5 years, where I was reading tons, I was writing a lot, I was drawing, didn't know that I could draw, and I found out a lot about myself. And so not until my uncle's best friend, Ed Kedarakis, who's still racing in the SCCA, invited me to one of his races at a High Plains Raceway in Colorado. And I went out there, and I just didn't know that racing at an amateur level was that competitive and that men took it that seriously. And I was like, what the hell have I been doing? Like, I'm just driving, I was driving a Porsche Turbo at the time. I'm like, I'm just driving this to dinner, like fast on the highway. Like, I'm just, and what really, I guess put the icing on the cake was when I was at High Plains Raceway, there was a 7-year-old kid and a 70-year-old woman that both came up to me while I was standing next to my Turbo. And they said, "Hey, nice car." And I said, "Oh, thank you," with a smug look on my face. And, knowing it was, a nice car. And each of them, the 7-year-old and the 70-year-old, said, "Do you track it?" And I said, "Oh, no. And they both went, Psh, and kind of turned and looked the other way. Like they had nothing to talk with me about. And I was like, man, this is never happening to me again. I'm not letting this happen. And so yeah, I felt that. And right then and there, I promised, and I eventually made a New Year's resolution. It's a really tough one, to buy a race car. So and that's what I did. And I didn't
That's
stop.
awesome. And it was that Porsche. Your first race car, was that a different Porsche?
It was a different Porsche.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
ended
but it
up
was
getting
one we were talking about
the
earlier.
Cup car.
Yeah.
But I was driving a 997 Turbo S street car cabriolet that I bought
That's cool.
when I signed my Jaguar
That's
deal.
really cool.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you take from playing football mentality-wise in your preparation for a race?
Totally, note taking. I took a lot of notes as a player. You load up as much as you can, or at least that's how I felt, that you load up on notes, you review them, and so then you kind of have them on call that week, right? Because every week you're, just like you go to a different track, you're facing a different team, different offense, different run scheme, different opponents. Yeah. But then you look for habits, right? You look for patterns, and I think that's one thing that football does have within it that I don't think a lot of people recognize, is that, even if you're not the most gifted, ultimate combine proficient athlete, there are plenty of opportunities to recognize patterns, right, and tendencies. And the more that you can play into those tendencies, it's gambling with your body, essentially. And it's the more that you can recognize tendencies, the faster you can play the game.
Kind of like in a race car when you're racing against
Totally.
other people,
Totally.
studying them and how they race.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so the faster you can, have pattern recognition of other people, of tracks, of your tires, of your car, the faster you can be.
Yeah. No, I feel like in every sport, and it doesn't have to be football or racing, it can be golf, it can be basketball, whatever. I feel like there's some sort of cross to where everybody does something very similar to either prep or execute to the best of their ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, in every sport we play or race or whatever, we've just got to maximize it and do the best that we can do. And, because stuff's not going to go our way all the time. And
So what do you have to do this weekend, man? Because look at that neck. You're already turning it.
yeah, it's been a tough weekend for
Yeah.
sure. It's been we've had some issues, just mechanical stuff that we've been working through. But I mean, hats off to the Nitro boys. I mean, they've been working their butts off and trying to get this thing ready to go. We had a little bit of a brake issue there in official practice, but I think we'll get that fixed and we'll figure it out. I don't know if it's going to be dry though for quali today.
Yeah. I hear it dripping still outside
Yeah,
the door.
I don't
so I don't
know
know.
what's going to happen for that, but rain or shine, let's get it.
Yeah, no, it's good
I
stuff.
like the rain. I know
You
we
do.
were talking.
You like it.
I loved racing in the rain.
Are you just saying that because there's cameras here and you know that your opponents will be watching?
No, I
Or you
really
like it?
do enjoy it.
Okay, tell me what you like about it.
So the thing about it, I grew up racing on asphalt, but I also raced dirt.
Oh, okay.
So I did winged outlaw karts, micro sprints, but at the same time, that teaches you car control. But in the rain, it's like, I feel like, and it's always been this mentality I've had since I was younger when Ricky Rudd and Lake Speed were teaching me how to race in the rain in a go-kart. It was kind of everything else goes out the window.
Yeah.
Car-wise, I mean, everybody's kind of in the same area, and it kind of evens the playing field, and it really comes down to the driver. I mean, Thomas Annunziata and I had a really good race there at Lime Rock last year in the wet, and I think that just shows, like, how good racing can be, especially when the playing field is equal for everybody. So I think once, like in the rain, it's kind of like chess. Like, when you lose in chess, you made a mistake somewhere along the lines, and I think in the rain, it's kind of similar. It's if you can execute and do everything right or do as much possible right, that you'll be able to come out on top.
Yeah. So, I mean, that actually leads me to a question where it's like, you see a guy like Annunziata or other guys that were either teammates or, guys that you're racing, hard against, and you see them racing on television, whether that's ARCA, whether that's even some guys you race against are in the Cup Series, and Xfinity rolls off the tongue a little bit more than O'Reilly's, but either way, like you see these guys, you see the people that you've competed against out in the world. Yeah. How do you compare that to here at Trans Am, like the competitiveness that not only is here and has been here, but that gets reloaded every year? Like, what are you seeing in this paddock right now comparatively?
I mean, I think obviously we don't have a race under our belts yet, but
Trans Am, and I've said this in interviews past, Trans Am is one of the most ruthless series out there. I mean, because look, we don't have front wings, we have bodies on our cars. There's rubbing, there's, contact. It's a contact sport. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're racing against some of the best guys in the States and even in the world. So to be able to come over here and Trans Am and win is huge. And at the end of the day, if we can go out and win a championship this year, that'll obviously push me forward and help with my career. But seeing these guys that I've raced against move up and move on to bigger things as well, it's very motivating. It's because I see these guys, but I want to be there too. And
yeah, sure.
I take a step back sometimes, and I think we all deal with it. And I kind of want your opinion on it, on self-doubt. Can we really do this? Am I good enough to be here? And it's the reoccurring, like, all right, in my mind, if I can work as hard as I can, then I'll make it. It's tough, granted, because this is an expensive sport. It is. But with the help of sponsors and trying to find that, I feel that if I can, do all the things possible, stars have to align at the end of the day. But, what's your opinion kind of, do you ever think to yourself, can I do this? Am I good enough to do this?
Yeah, I mean, you have those moments when you're sitting outside of the car like yesterday where you're just kind of staring at it. But yeah, I think it takes a blend of, I do think overall in general, our current, kind of pop culture is a little oversaturated in the word vulnerability. But I do think there is definite value to being vulnerable in order to work through what you feel is an inadequacy of yours as a competitor or just, as a man. And I think that's why I like competition, is because it forces you to recognize your vulnerabilities, right? And then to work on them, right? It's not just this repetitive cycle of recognizing them and then creating social value from you having some introspective thought. It's taking that introspection, it's taking that vulnerability and then working on that and not necessarily hardening it, but structuring it. And so I think it is necessary to be vulnerable. I don't think it actually helps people when they're constantly, giving you that hot shot look, like, oh, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm freaking ready. Yeah, let's go, and it's constantly that way.
Yeah.
But even though you want to, give a strong front to competitors because you have such a tight window in a weekend,
right.
I still also think as a competitor and not just as a vulnerable man, that you can still be competitive in your vulnerability. Right, you can actually give somebody something. Put that in my quote book. Well, you can give somebody something, right? And because I see it all the time, where, I tend to be a little bit more open than I am closed off. Right, I'll talk about, man, I really wish I would have had a more solid shit this morning. It was just a little bit too loose for my liking.
Yeah.
Right, and that'll throw people off. Right,
yeah.
Right, and so it's just like you're a little bit too open, and then you recognize, or that person may recognize that they're a little bit closed off, and they won't say something like that. So I think there's times,
game, man. But it is. It's a mind game.
Well, it's it's flowing, and then it's also that's where the looseness comes in, and you got to be relaxed, and you got to be willing to talk about your deuces. Free. You got to be willing to talk about your deuces. It's healthy.
It's so funny you say that, and this is going to sound so wrong to people listening, but it's funny. I had an old engineer. His name's Tonis Kazmans. He's actually here this weekend. Shout out Tonis. He's old racer, engineer, whatever, and I worked with him at Pabst Racing and the open wheel stuff. And I was in USF 2000. It was 2024. He was the engineer on the USF Pro cars. So I walk into the office and I say, Tonis, can I have a minute with you? I want to pick your brain. And I said, because we had been struggling that weekend. I think we ended up winning that weekend, but we were struggling to start. And I said, Tonis, I'm struggling. What can I do to be better, to be the best I can be? And he goes, he's Estonian. And he goes, I'm going to simplify this for you. When you take a poop, do you think about how many squares of toilet paper you're going to use or how long it's going to take you or how you're going to position yourself to sit? I said, no, you just do it. And then you do your business and go. He goes, that's how you have to approach racing. You just get in the car and you do it. You don't worry about every little thing. You just jump in and you drive. You shut up and drive. And I think it relates to everything about life. You just have to do it. You can't overanalyze things. You just have to get in and go. And it's funny. Every time I see him now, he says, oh, good shits, good. And, give him a thumbs up, whatever. But, it's funny because it's so true and it's so, out there, right? It's not
It's not politically correct, but
yeah, but no, that's what it is, right?
It's mental.
No, it's being able to dance in unstructured territory, right? So when you have something unstructured, and then but there are definite structures, but they each have value in relation to one another.
Yeah, and
so,
it's just being free. It's being loose. It's
yeah.
My dad has said it to me before, when he's seen me super tense because we haven't been doing well, or when there's negativity.
Well, it sounds like there's a pattern here that you're talking about. Every time you're not doing well in the beginning of the weekend, you end up winning. So I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
You may just be full of shit.
You know
here.
what? From your
and you're
lips
not,
to
and you're
God's
trying to
ears.
be, you're trying to be a little bit more vulnerable than you actually are, and you're actually fucking ready to rip.
Mind games, baby. Come on.
I look at you,
Man. But you
You're
know what?
ready.
And honestly, and I'll tell you what, I have learned so much just from, and even the reels you send me on Instagram.
Yeah.
But the things you talk about, and when we talk, I've learned so much just in the brief moments before races or whatever it may be, just listening to you and listening to the advice you have, because of, I mean, you're wise beyond your years. You're still young,
Thanks.
You are. But for me, I feel like listening to you and some of the Road to Glory stuff with Kevin, I've learned so much just about your mentality and how you go about things. And I think for racing, it's physical, sure. It's hot in these cars, whatever it may be, but it's also, I think it's more mental than physical. Would you agree?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think it is. I'd agree with that, and I think I don't know if it actually translates. I think it does, but I think reading helps you with perspective. I think it's an actual mental and visual practice that I think people can get into, and that I'm always trying to tell young men to do more of.
To read.
Is to read, and it's not necessarily what you read. It's literally the practice of doing it.
Right.
That I think outweighs the material in and of itself.
Working your brain.
Yeah, and I think it's forethought. It's actually practicing putting together, a series of visual components that produce meaning.
Yeah.
And so I think it really helps people not necessarily predict the future, but it helps you deal with unstructured future and making it comprehensive and understandable. So I'm always trying to tell young men to read. And I also, I'm trying to give as much. I think I told the Tovo twins today up on grid, I asked them, do you guys have a bedtime? And I said, are you guys even in school? What do you guys do? And they said they go to school 3 times a week. And I said, okay,
basics,
well, on those 2 off days and you're here at the track,
Yeah.
you can count on Professor Odrick to teach
Yeah.
you all the conspiracies
We need to get
that will
you
no
the,
longer
the
serve
singular,
you. Oh my
glass
God.
with the chain on it, like
the monocle?
Yeah.
I
we
can
need to
dig
get
it.
you
I would
that.
rock a monocle.
And a fedora.
I could see that. I don't know about a fedora
Come
yet.
on.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't
okay,
know.
but so are you gonna grow the hair back out?
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Because
I,
I saw you in Ballers.
Yeah.
I was watching the show,
Yeah.
and you had the long hair. I look good.
Hey, Strathmore. How you like him? You strike me as an over-easy kind of guy.
I'm not really hungry now, Jared. Thank you. Good morning, buddy.
Most important meal of the day. Gotta get your proteins in.
Yeah, it was all right. It was a different time in my life,
I
right?
feel like that would suck in a helmet, though.
It actually wasn't bad. It was
Yeah.
extra. It was extra padding, extra cushioning. And you see these guys with those. I take all the safety precautions that they allow you, but at the same time, you have those helmets with the extra padding on the outside.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like
It
if
looks funny.
you want that, grow your hair out. And you see a
Yeah.
lot of guys do that, right?
Yeah.
Where they grow their hair out, and it's kind of this younger warrior thing. And I think that's kind of what I was doing, or at least I recognized in hindsight.
We got the
was,
stash coming in.
Yeah, I mean it's authoritative,
Yeah.
and the kids listen.
Wise.
No,
Wise tales.
Yeah, no. It seems like the stash does well for race car drivers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I can't grow it, so.
I see some stubble.
Yeah, this is a day. I shaved yesterday.
Huh.
I grow it in a little bit. I
Okay.
can't get a full stash like that, though.
So you're gonna grow the beard out at all? I'll grow my hair as long as you grow your beard.
See, I do when I'm not at the racetrack.
Okay.
And then I gotta be Mr. Professional and shave. But
Okay.
my dad's like, dude, what's going on here? You look homeless. Like
You're
come
gonna
on.
you're gonna notice that the more you openly talk about your shits, the more you're gonna grow your beard. It's gonna coincide.
Well,
They're
the
gonna
chest
grow
hair,
together.
When does that fill in?
The chest hair?
I'm
Oh
kidding.
man. Yeah. Well. Yeah. I think I might have the most chest hair on the paddock right now.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I got Italian genes, so it'll come in eventually.
Yeah. Give it time.
Yeah.
Give it time.
I'll be walking around here with the beater on and the cross necklace.
I already heard you talking
out
that
like
gabagool
the-
mess.
Yeah. Hey, did you watch Sopranos? That's a good show.
Yeah, I'm actually showing it to my wife now. She's never seen
It's
it.
really
and so
good.
we're in season 6, episode we just got finished with the Kevin Finnerty episode. So you remember Kevin Finnerty?
Yeah. That was weird, man.
It is weird, but I think the Sopranos kind of age nicely, where production value goes up.
Yeah.
The cameras that they're using are totally better. Their transitions from scene to scene are crispier and crispier, and kind of they have more and more kind of symbolic undertones to it. The whole show in and of itself is, I probably just sound like every other meme online, but I would,
And the ending. You've watched the whole thing, right?
I've watched the whole thing, but
the ending.
Let's not talk about it yet.
It's just weird, right?
Crystal hasn't seen it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So,
She hasn't seen it. We won't
she
talk
hasn't
about
seen
it.
But
no, it's okay. Who's your favorite character, though?
my
Besides
favorite
Tony.
character, I mean, I like Tony.
Yeah.
I love Paulie Walnuts,
Yeah.
but I think the heart of the show is Chris, right?
Chrissy. Yeah.
I think Chris is the heart, right?
Yeah.
Because there is
all the problems are around Chrissy.
well,
When he
because there
grew
is
up.
an innocence.
Yeah.
There is an innocence to Chris,
Yeah.
right? When he's trying to get his show off the ground.
Yep.
To Adriana,
Yep.
to his relationships. He wears his heart on his sleeve,
Yeah,
right?
he does.
And I think Tony, being in that authoritative position, recognizes that and tries to protect it.
Yep.
But Tony also, is necessarily at times a bit of a tyrant, where he has to like strangle that emotion out.
100%.
So
I like Sil.
yeah,
I like Sil.
Sil's great.
Best dressed.
Yes, but he chokes under pressure.
He does.
He
I
literally
knew-
is asthmatic.
Yeah.
Anytime there's any decisions on him.
Yep.
So
Yep. And you know what? I think I'm gonna rock up. It's funny, for Valentine's Day, my girlfriend got me a red tracksuit, and I'm gonna get not a red. We're gonna do like brown maybe,
okay,
but show up to the race with a tracksuit on.
No.
I don't think I could pull it off.
I think
Here.
you can.
And not in this setting, I don't think.
That's all on you, man. That's
think
all on you.
we should do one of these at the track episodes. We should really rock up like styling.
I dig
we
it.
should
I
do
think
a-
there should be a themed.
A
There's
Sopranos themed, the Gabagool, the
show up to either a show or even a
Coffee.
race weekend. You need
Yeah.
to try Trans Am to like
Yes.
make it either a Sopranos race weekend or like
Yeah.
a runway weekend for these kids, or
Well, what we need to do is we need to go out. Somebody needs to tell us. So look at the schedule, and we need to find where the best coffee is. Okay, do you drink coffee in the morning?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
we got to find the best coffee where all the places we go. So next road Atlanta and then
Mm-hmm.
Sonoma. Where's the best coffee shop? I love Off the Rail in Road America.
Yeah,
it's
it's a
really
good one.
good. But who's got the best coffee? I think we've got to find that out. I think that's got to be a goal for this season.
I think the best coffee on our schedule last year was in Birmingham.
Really?
Yeah. There was a really good coffee shops downtown Birmingham
We should
over
hit
at
that up.
Barber. Well,
Yeah,
we're
we
not
should-
going this year.
Oh no, that's right.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Why?
But no,
right.
yeah. Birmingham was good.
Yep.
I'm trying to think.
I love that we're going to Indy. What do you think about that?
Yeah,
you been there?
no, I haven't. I was there for PRI, and I obviously played at that stadium a few times, but I'd never been there to kiss the bricks or even see anybody
Man,
do
it's
that.
cool.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you've been there. Have
Yeah,
you raced there?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you race there?
USF 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to win there, and it is like you go into Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it hits you. The history,
Cool.
just how iconic the place is. And granted, we're on the road course, which the road course is cool. It's really cool. It's simple, but it's cool. But you're going around there, and growing up, so I got to race a go-kart there, and we would do the road course. So we do part of the road course, and then we'd loop back around the old F1 course, and then we'd like loop. You go through the chicane there in the backstretch.
Yeah.
Instead, you go right, and you would go around and then back through the parking lot, and it would connect it all. And then, that weekend, you got to do what's called the lap. And you get in your go-kart, and you go 3 wide with all the old pace cars, and you are in sections. And you get to do a lap around the big track in a go-kart.
Oh wow.
And so, like, the first year I was the front row, like, very, first one on the top, just, like, taking it all in. And the second year, me and a bunch of other guys, we kind of laid back, and I think we were doing 95 in a go-kart down the backstretch, like,
That's
hauling,
intense.
right? But it's just, the history there is so
Yeah.
cool. And going through the museum, we do it every year. And
When you said USF 2000.
2000 there, yeah.
Did you do oval or
The road course.
the road course too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, because they did Indy Lights at the Oval a long time ago. They stopped doing that, but
That, to do the Indy 500 one day, whether it's, to be able to do the double would be so cool, the cup race. And then
Has your ultimate racing goals switched or changed over the last 2 years?
It definitely has. Yeah.
So are your dreams attached to what you feel is attainable for you? Because I mean, like, people ask me all the time, like, who have no racing understanding, where it's like, oh, do you want to run F1? I'm like, dude, like, come on, you know. But they don't recognize that or understand that.
Sure.
And even there are things within racing where I don't want to mark as like restricted and that I won't get there, but I definitely narrow my scope to things that are tangible. Like, how do you feel? What is a tangible dream for you, and has that changed over time?
Yeah, and funding plays a big factor into that.
Sure.
For me, I was racing go-karts, and then I got into cars, and I was racing open wheel. And I was like, man, I want to be an IndyCar driver. I want to make it to IndyCar. That, and still, I love IndyCar. I think it's amazing. The racing, the cars, I love it. It's got a special place in my heart. But going through the ranks there and just seeing how much it costs. And me, I don't come from a money tree in my backyard. We have to work very hard to make it to the racetrack every week, and it's been tough, but it's also part of the game. It's the challenge, and I love it. So I've kind of had to change my mentality from, I'm going to be an IndyCar driver to I want to be a professional race car driver.
Yeah.
So not necessarily set on one thing, but everything. So, to make it to NASCAR, the Cup Series is a dream. It's a goal. It's, what I'm working towards. And also, I have a love for sports cars too. I love everything racing.
Yeah.
I do. I love IndyCar. I love NASCAR. I love IMSA. I love all of this, but, I'd love to run the Rolex 24. That's a bucket list goal that, I would love to be able to go run the Rolex next year. And, it's funny, I actually spotted it this past year for Will Power.
Oh, cool.
I ran into him and he didn't have a spotter, and he's like, man, you want to do it? I'm like, okay. So it's really cool. And, but to be able to race that and to win it, it would be a dream come true. So we're on the NASCAR path and trying to make it to that next level, which would be ARCA next year. And, trying to raise the money for it and do all that kind of stuff. And that's part where the podcast comes in, is just helping to get the brand out there, but also to be able to talk and be able to have these conversations, and learn. And so there's a lot of different.
Well, one thing I'm
like
recognizing, right, is like of all ages of people, is that the goals within racing, especially because funding is such a critical element, right, in having proper partnerships and sponsorships. It's a little bit different than the landscape of football, where there's kind of a track of what you do, and then like once you fall off those tracks, and there's other places that you could go, right? But within racing, it's not necessarily like there's this one track that you can do that equates to having a good career, right? If you don't either make it on a team in the NFL or a practice squad, then people start talking about Canada.
Sure.
And if you can't do Canada, then people start talking about either Europe or arena.
Yep.
Right. And there's this clear hierarchy of what to do and how to do it. But what I'm recognizing in racing, and I think this is something important, and I would love to promote this even in younger and younger kids, as you're racing here in Trans Am, is that I think that's one thing that I appreciated about a guy like Barry Bowes last year, or even like a guy like Rafa, and even a guy like Skeen that is, raced at the highest levels.
Merrill.
Exactly, Merrill.
Great
example,
drivers.
right? That loves using this platform not just as a development tool, not just as to keep a hot shoe and a hot foot, or and to stay in it, as you would say. But I think recognizing that this is a formidable platform, and I like being a part of Trans Am because I like thinking that I'm helping building something real or honest. Not to say that something else outside of this, or what's considered above this in some form or fashion, isn't honest.
Yeah.
But I think there is a lot more merit and hard labor that is effective here,
Right.
than just straight cash. And
Which
I
we
think
talked about on the phone.
correct.
The other week.
And so I would just want to keep that alive for not
for
just
sure.
yourself, but anybody else. And sometimes I think that's kind of not what holds the series back, but people are still so focused on the major spectacle And I guess from my perspective, it seems like my competitive endeavors have become more and more meaningful, even though I've gone further and further away from the bigger spectacle that is NFL football.
I thank you for coming on and helping me co-host these.
No, of course, man. So anytime we're at a track, I'd love to hop on, man.
We'll do it every race weekend, and we'll get, if there's a beef going on, we'll have to bring some drivers on here.
Let's do it.
Let's
do it.
But I thank you for doing this.
No, of course, man.
And let's have a good qualifying.
Yeah. Well, where are you at right now, and where do you want to be?
In regards, where are we on time?
Yeah, where are you on time?
We're like 10th on time. We're really bad right now, but we're gonna go for the pole here and see what we can get. What about you?
Cool. Yeah. No, in Pro-Am we're on pole right now, but
good.
I think what's becoming more and more of a marker of success is seeing how close I can get to you guys, and so I think that's what we're after, and we don't want to mess up what we have right now. Trying to overshoot our shot, and miss our mark. So, but yeah, no, there's some guys in my class that have new bodies that I know that are just figuring out the different dynamics or how to drive it a little bit different. I haven't changed my body, so I feel pretty consistent in that regard. So still running the Chevy body and excited about it. So I think we're P15 overall, but P1 in Pro-Am right now.
Hey, let's go back to back.
Cool.
Yeah?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.